Dr. Jennings, it is a pleasure to have you on Morning Beats today.
Ashley, thanks for having me.
Yes, and you are a neighbor. Like we just we just talked for a second ago that about the fact that we're both here in Tennessee and didn't even realize.
It's great. I didn't know you. Yeah, we're both in Chattanooga, and I love the Tennessee area. I hope you do too.
Yeah, it's great. And what's awesome too about you is that, your book, The Aging Brain, has made quite the mark on mental health and psychiatry. I know, and not just psychiatry, but just our brains, our brain health. So I would love to jumpstart our conversation with talking about the two main factors that I think a lot of people are concerned about as they age, which are dementia and Alzheimer's. And for those of us who get a little bit confused, including myself, can you just give us kind of like the basics of the difference of the two and what they're caused by?
Yes, dementia is a functional loss of ability that it includes memory impairment plus the loss of one of four functional domains. So memory impairment plus language disturbance or motor disturbance, like you can't button your shirt or tie your shoes normally, or a loss of the impairment to recognize familiar objects, like you don't recognize a chair as being a chair, or loss of executive function, like the ability to balance your checkbook or plan your meals. So if you have memory impairment with one or more of those domain losses, that's the syndrome or functional disorder known as dementia. Anything that damages your brain can cause dementia. The various types of things that damage our brain causes different types of dementia. For instance, vascular disease, where you get tiny little strokes and little strokes cause loss of brain tissue, causes vascular dementia. Parkinson's disease will cause Parkinson's dementia. And the most number one cause is Alzheimer's disease, which is a particular type of pathology damaging the brain. And when you've lost enough brain tissue, you then begin to lose function, memory impairment, and these other losses, which is the syndrome of dementia, Alzheimer's type in that case.
Oh, okay. Now, can dementia be hereditary?
Yes, rarely. The most common type of dementia, the Alzheimer's type, there are two forms of it: early onset dementia and late onset dementia. Late onset, 65 years of age and older, that's the most common type. 95% of all Alzheimer's dementias are late onset. And those you can have genetic vulnerability for. There are certain genes that increase risk, but those genes are not directly causal. The best way to understand it, if you have those genes, they make you more sensitive to the lifestyle factors that increase or cause Alzheimer's dementia. So you take less of a dose of those lifestyle factors to get it, but the genes themselves don't directly cause it. The early onset form, though, which happens in your 50s or earlier, 40s, 50s, that is 5% or less of the Alzheimer's type, and that is what's known as autosomal dominant. Single genes will cause that. So if you get those genes, right now we don't know how to stop that, and that is causal, but that's a very small subset of the total of the Alzheimer's type dementias.
Well, that's really good to know, I think, because it gives me hope, to be honest with you, that the genetic factor is a part of it, but it's not. It sounds like, from what I'm hearing, is that we can still take measures to prevent dementia in our own lives.
No, that's absolutely true. I want people to understand that many people have this myth that the older you get, dementia is normal aging. It is not. Dementia is pathological aging. If you make the right lifestyle choices, for the vast majority of people, you can avoid dementia and you can age and maintain your abilities. And that's the hope that I want to give to people.
That's a great thing that we should get out to people. Exactly. So moving forward, what are some of those steps that you mentioned in your book, but what are some of those steps that you would say are probably the most practical and effective ways that we can do right now to help prevent ourselves from that kind of symptoms?
So overall principles, healthy lifestyle, but simple things: stay active both mentally and physically. People who regularly exercise, and it doesn't have to be aggressive, just walking 30 minutes, brisk walk 5 days a week, has been shown in older populations to not only prevent the onset of dementia, but in the memory circuits of our brain, in groups that they've done this with and they've looked at brain structure, we can see growth, regrowth in the memory circuits of the brain, 2% larger for those who began the 30-minute walking a day for, I think it was 4 to 6 or 8 weeks later, they could see growth in this part of the brain, and their brains appeared 2 years younger. In that population of people who say have a family history, oh, my mom, my dad, they both got Alzheimer's dementia in their 70s or 80s, and maybe they've even done the genetic testing and they have the genes that put them at high risk for that late onset form. Studies show that if people with those high risk genes have a history of exercise, they do not develop Alzheimer's dementia. So there is just one lifestyle factor that has been shown to either delay or prevent the onset of the late onset Alzheimer's type dementia, which is just regular exercise. But there's many other things we can do. Another very simple one is an anti-inflammatory diet. And 2 types of diets have been associated with better brain volume and better brain function, and 1 diet with worse brain volume and worse function. The 2 healthy diets are a plant-based diet, lots of fruits, nuts, and vegetables, and berries. These are very high antioxidant. They're really good for the brain. Or a Mediterranean diet, which is high in fish oils and low in high processed foods. The diet that accelerates aging and risks your dementia is the fast food, junk food, sweetie American diet. So that's 2 simple things people can do that can really forestall the loss of our abilities.
You know, it's so funny how I feel like we as humans tend to complicate things, you know. And when you think of an active lifestyle, a lot of people think, oh, I don't have time to go to a gym. But what you just said was just walking 30 minutes a day. You know, we all have that kind of a time, I hope, you know, on a lunch break or maybe later in the day before you go to bed or wake up a little bit early, you know, things that we can do. And like you're talking about with the diets, you're not saying you got to go and follow this very strict. You're saying eat fresh fruits and vegetables, you know, don't stock up on your carbohydrates and your fats and sugar, right?
That's exactly right. And high fructose corn syrup is more oxidizing than regular sugar, meaning some studies show it's about 10 times more oxidizing. So if you had and I don't recommend soft drinks at all, they're all harmful, but if you were to drink a soft drink with high fructose corn syrup, basically the same, you could have 10 with regular sugar for the same damaging effect to your body. Not calories, just the oxidizing effect. Artificial sweeteners, the man-made chemical sweeteners, these have been shown in multiple studies to increase your risk of dementia. So avoiding artificial sweeteners, something very simple to do that can reduce your risk of dementia. Getting out in nature, going for a walk in nature. Multiple studies show that people get out in nature on a regular basis have lower stress hormones, lower heart rates, lower blood pressure, sleep better, have less anxiety, and there are actual reasons for that. Touching the earth. I don't know if you walk bare feet in the grass. The earth is an electron donor. You get electrons into your body that reduce inflammation, give you better health, can reduce aches and pains, and reduce your risk of dementia. So simple things.
Yeah, simple and beautiful things that we can do every day. And you mentioned about less anxiety to get out to do things. So just for the last couple minutes that we have, something that I ran across that I thought was pretty exciting about you as a board certified psychiatrist and someone who has been in this medical field for years and has quite the resume. So we'll let people look that up themselves. That would take up all of our time. But what is, in your opinion, the best holistic method for depression and anxiety? Because I ran across this TMS therapy and I'd never heard of that before. Do you mind speaking on that for a minute?
Yeah, so TMS, the letters TMS stands for trans across, cranial magnetic stimulation. So across the cranium, magnet stimulation. So basically it's a device about the size of my hand that just is placed right up against your cranium. There's no IVs or anesthesia, and it gives pulses of magnetic energy straight into the brain, which activates or turns on circuits of the brain that are underactive when someone's in depression. And a treatment will last for about 30 minutes, and you'll get pulses of energy, which will cause those underactive neurons to fire. And repeated treatments like this will actually stimulate the brain to reactivate, will turn on genes that will cause neuronal regrowth and resprouting, and will move people out of a state of depression back into a state of non-depression or wellness. And this treatment has been cleared by the FDA. It's approved by multiple insurances, but no treatment works for 100% of everybody. So not everybody does well with it. But for those that works well with it, we've had really good outcomes in our practice. And that's kind of a simple, quick overview.
Okay, that's a very clear overview, because when I read about it, I liked that it made the difference though between what electroshock therapy, which I've heard, is still used sometimes in extreme cases of depression, because I'm sure that would be a concern for someone who is looking for a drug-free help to depression and anxiety.
Yeah, electric shock gives electric energy, which induces a seizure, and the person's asleep under anesthesia for that. It's effective, but it's much more burdensome and has more risks. The TMS, you're awake and alert the whole time. There's no IVs or drugs, and as soon as you're done, you get up and go about your business.
It kind of sounds like, when you go to a physical therapist, my family, we have physical therapy in our family, and they do electrostimulation, like on your muscles and things like that to help circulate the blood flow as well as loosen up the muscle.
Okay, so it's something you can do in the office without having to be incapacitated like you would for the shock treatment.
Okay, well, thanks for that, because I never heard of that, and I thought, well, that might be pretty interesting to bring up. So where can we go to find out more about your studies, more about your the studies on aging brain and depression and anxiety? Where can we go to find out more?
We have a lot of free resources at my ministry website called comeandreason.com. Videos and other resources are there that we'd like to share.
Great. Well, this has been a pleasure to chat with you. I feel very informed and motivated. I need to get outside and walk. I think it'll warm up to about 50 maybe today, maybe 40, who knows?
Well, Ashley, thanks for having me.
Definitely. You have a wonderful day, Dr. Jennings.